Hey guys, and welcome back to the farm. I'm Susie, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. In today's video, I have some fun, dark, moody Halloween fall thrift flips for you. For project number one, I picked up this silver-plated platter. It says $10, but you can bet your bottom dollar that I did not pay $10 for it. I think it was in a one of the thrift stores that I went to had like a mystery box, and it was in the box. I think I paid $3 for the whole box. So I had this little piece of scrap left from last year's fall botanical. This is from Roycycled decoupage paper. The first thing I'm going to do, of course, I cleaned up the platter, took off the price tags. I'm going to give it 2 quick coats of a white paint to go underneath the decoupage paper. And I'm going to use Fusion decoupage and transfer gel. I always decoupage the same way. This is a smaller piece, so I did a bigger starter strip, so I really just had to do it in 2 pieces. But I like to put the starter strip down and then wet my paper. That allows those fibers to stretch, and it makes it so easy to get out all of the wrinkles. And then I just use my paintbrush to smooth out all the wrinkles and then do another coat of the transfer gel on top of it as well. So I just finish this up, and I kind of hold the bottom until I get the wrinkles out, and then I just cover it really good. After the decoupage paper had dried, I wasn't worried about that white strip around it because I'm going to take the Wellington. This is the sample that was in Sonnet's Maker's box for August, and I did several projects with it then, and I'm still using it. So I just carefully went all around the edges, making sure I covered up all that white paint underneath the decoupage paper, and I gave the whole thing front and back 2 good coats before moving on to the next step. After the paint was dry, I took my little finger sander and I distressed all the edges, and then I took it off of there and just kind of sanded the entire finish down. I had a few little scratches that had got on there, and I thought that it looked different. So I went ahead and sanded the entire thing with just a fine grit sandpaper. And then once that's done, I did go over it just to blend those edges with some black wax. I went all the way around the center, and because of that decoupage transfer gel, I did not need to put a clear wax down first because that transfer gel is protecting it, so I'll be able to wipe back as much of that black wax as I want. And then this little project is finished. I could put a sawtooth hanger on the back of it, glue one on to hang on the wall. I think that would be the best way to display it, or that it would be so cute on a nightstand where you just throw your watch and your rings in for the fall season. So I could not pick a favorite of today's projects. I liked all of them, but this one is going to be a top one for sure. So I had this bamboo cutting board. It's been in my stash a really long time, and finally today I'm going to make it over. I found last year I did not get in the Halloween or fall ones for Roycycled because I was just starting to get into them, but I did end up getting the Halloween masterboard this year, and it is so cool. I have some of these available on the website, and I just picked out a little bit that I wanted to display on this little tray. So I've got a base coat of white down, and I'm going to decoupage just like I always do. I do want to say that everybody has their favorite way to decoupage. There is no right or wrong way. I just let y'all know that this is the way that works best for me. I learned it from watching Sonnet. This is always how she does it, and it never fails. It always works out perfectly. So I did my little starter strip. I am using Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel. I wet my paper, and then I smooth out all the wrinkles as I go until I finish decoupaging the entire project. Once my decoupage paper is completely dry, I'll sand off all the edges. I like to let mine sit overnight if I can, just because I want to make sure it's completely dry, and then just go in a downward motion, and it perfectly cuts those edges on your decoupage paper. Once I got the edges all cleaned up, I am again going to use that little sample size of the Wellington. That's a Fusion all-in-one paint. This one came in Sonnet's Maker's Box. But I wanted to remind y'all that I do have all the Fusion paint on my website. And those sample sizes are only $7.99, and it's a great way to decide how you feel about a color using it on smalls, and they go a really, really long way. And then you could decide if you want to, use it for a bigger piece and before you purchase a larger size. All those are available, as well as all the decoupage papers, at susieonthefarm.com. So I'm just going to paint all the edges here, carefully trying not to get a ton of it on the decoupage paper, but it's okay if I do get a little bit. We're going for dark and moody here, so I didn't want any white showing, and I'm going to do the back side too, just to make sure that everything's all finished. I always try to do the back side and clean up the backs, because I'm going to be selling them. If I was just going to be putting them on my wall, it would be different. And then once that painted dries, to blend everything in, I am going to, I don't know if this is black wax. Yeah, this is black wax. I'm going to put some black wax all around the edges and just wipe back any of the excess. And I had forgotten that I have a ton of these handles in my stash, and I pulled a couple of them out, and they look so good with this project. So we're going to go ahead and put these handles on this tray. They're already a natural copper patina. These were actually on our kitchen cabinets when we remodeled the house, and I chose not to reuse them, but I kept them, and I have used them quite a good bit since then. And I'm going to go ahead and just screw them on. And then I only had black screws, so to hide the black screws, I am going to use a little bit of the Fusion Metallic Copper just to blend all that in and hide those black screws. I put a little bit more over the top of the handles, and then to finish it off, I'm going to use some of the the black wax over the handles too, just to highlight all those details. I did not want to cover up any of the green patina, but I did want to cover those screws and any of the dark areas. You might have seen a sneak peek of this project in those photos, but I had this mason jar. I painted it with chalk paint. Probably didn't seal it, looks like, a few years ago, and it's been on my bathroom shelf with some floral in it since then, so I just grabbed it. And I saw this crow from the Halloween masterboard, and I love that tree as well. So I'm going to try to piece all that together and decoupage this glass jar. I didn't bother putting another coat of white paint down. I figured that it would be plenty light enough with that one messy coat that was on there. Now, decoupaging on a rounded surface is a little bit different. I just started in the middle, and I tried to keep it straight on the bottom, and then where the jar got smaller up top, that's where I made my folds or wrinkles. But I am using the Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel. I like how thick this gel is, and it's just real easy to work with. So I've got the bird on there, and then I just do a top coat of the Transfer Gel as well. And then I want to try to fit the tree next to the bird, and the way I'm going to do that is just line up the musical notes that are in the background. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I kind of wanted it to look like they were on the same piece. But I did the same thing. I put the gel down, wet the paper, and then you have some time to work with it. It's not something you have to do in a hurry, but I just lined up the musical notes there and then decoupage this on as well the same way. And then I just had to kind of fit pieces. It was just scrap pieces that I had left over, and I just fit them onto this jar the same way. I have a ton of these small wood tags, so I just used another piece of scrap, decoupaged the front and the back to make a little tag to embellish our jar as well. And once all the decoupage paper is dried, I'm going to sand off the edges, and I'm also going to use some of the black wax to go around the edges of my little tag, just to make those sides darker and make it look real dark and moody for Halloween. And finally, to finish this super simple project off, I wrapped a good bit of twine around the neck of the bottle, tied on the tag, and then ripped a few pieces of scrap lace from my stash and tied it on there. I put some dried cream roses in this because I didn't have any black ones, but it would look so spooky and cool with some dark floral. Project number 4 is also a favorite of mine. I had some 2x4 wood scraps. I didn't even have to cut these. These were the sizes they were, so I thought I would make some pumpkins out of these. but these are going to be a little bit different. I've colored them or painted them in 3 different colors. I think that one is cashmere, the white one. I'm using the sample of the lichen fusion, and also this is the last of that Wellington. So I'm going to give both of these 2 coats front and back. I'm stacking them together because I want the image to be cohesive where they can sit right up next to each other. And I am using the ephemeral type stamp. This is from the latest IOD release. I do have some available on my website if you're needing one of these. And then I'm just going to lay it down. I've used IOD black ink. This is just going to be a background image. I love all this type for backgrounds. Now, originally my vision for this project was to have sunflowers on it. However, I have used all my sunflowers from the Painterly Florals, and I didn't want to open a new one because I only have one available and it's out of stock. So I came up with a different plan, and I drew inspiration from that first tray. The decoupage tray that we just made, and I saw the moth on it. So I gathered the moth and some scary looking bugs from, some of these came from the entomology transfer book. I still have quite a few of those scraps left, and some of them came from the Melose Pages. I think this one I'm doing here is from Melose Pages because it had the 31 number on there, and I left that one for the Halloween. So if you've never used a transfer before, the IOD transfers are so easy. They all come with this little plastic tool, and all you do is just take the white backing off, lay it on your project, and rub it until it releases onto your project. And then you'll take your plastic piece there, rub it back over all of the transfer to make sure that it is burnished in well to your project and all the parts are stuck down really well. So I got all these transferred. I did put the moth where it stretched over 2 different ones, and so to cut it I just used my transfer tool, pushed down in there, and then slid them over to the edges. I did seal these with some clear wax, and then I am using wine corks that I have painted with oakum, and I'm just hot gluing them on there and then putting a few fall florals here and there. I had some berries and some eucalyptus leaves. I just decorated them up, put some ribbon on them, used some more of that ripped lace. And then this project's done, and I so love how it turned out. This is so unique. There's so many different ways you could make these pumpkins, but you could sit them separately or together. They are one portrait if you put them together. We have made it to our 5th and final project of today. I do have a lot of these clay pots left. I thrifted a bunch of them a long time ago, and I think these might be my last 2, and I love doing planters out of these. So we're going to be using air dry clay. On the first one, we're going to use the sunflower mold. Y'all, this one is out of stock. I don't have any, and it's out of stock with IOD. They are supposed to come in September, but any mold will work. I am just going to put the small sunflower on this one. And when you're using the IOD molds, you want to dust them with just a little bit of cornstarch to make it easier to remove the clay. There is no sticking when you use the cornstarch. After I remove it, I do take my finger and just get off any excess stuff that isn't supposed to be there. But the detail in these IOD molds is amazing. I just love molds. You can use them over and over again. I use resin or clay in them, and there's just no end to the projects that you could do with these molds. So once I get all the molds made, I am going to glue them onto the pot using Type Bond Quick and Thick. This is my favorite glue for gluing on molds, and I glue them on when they are wet because this is a curved surface and you want the clay to take the shape of the pot or whatever you are putting it on. So I'm going to glue them all on, and then I'm going to hold them on with tape. Painter's tape. I'm going to let them dry overnight. I do like to paint my molds when they're wet. That tends to lessen any cracking or shrinking that you might have because it makes the clay dry so much slower. But I didn't have time to get these painted, so I let them sit overnight before I painted them. And the second project, we're going to use the O Pumpkin mold. And I do have several of those available on my website. Somehow I ended up with several after the season, but this is a limited retired release. So once these are gone, I will not be able to get any more if you didn't get any of the pumpkin molds last year. So I wanted that stem to kind of look like it was sitting under the sunflower. So I decided where I was going to put it, and then I just cut it off and glued it where it looked like it was sitting under the sunflower. I wanted to show y'all this, but I am going to speed it up big time because you just saw me make a bunch of molds. But molds are really easy to make. Same thing, dust it with cornstarch. It has that micro rim where you just kind of rub your finger along the outside edge and clean it all up. So I'm just doing the smaller pumpkins on this, just 2 small pumpkins. I'm gonna put them on top of each other, and then I'm gonna do just a few leaves, like some leaves are falling through the air. Leaves have already started falling at my house. We've had kind of a drought, so it's been really dry, so the leaves are already turning and it looks so pretty. The next morning, I'm going to paint inside and out of these. For the one with the sunflower, I chose Oakum. It's a brown. I think it has kind of a green tint to it, but and a little bit of black, but I absolutely love this dark color. So I'm going to go ahead and do the inside and the outside. And for the sunflower, I wanted to use white wax, but then I decided that I had a different plan. So I am going to dry brush this copper metallic paint on here. And as you can see, I am offloading almost every little bit of it. I just want to highlight that mold just a little bit without having to use wax to do it, because I didn't want to go with a lighter color. I wanted to keep this really dark. And then I am going to go over the entire thing with some of the Fusion Aging Wax. I'm going to do the inside too, just because this gives it an extra layer of durability for in case somebody puts a live plant inside one of these. I've done it several times. I have several pots that I've done just like this that I have live plants in, and they do just fine. And somehow I did not get on camera painting the other one, but I did paint that entire thing with the copper metallic paint. And then I went over the top of it with the same Fusion Aging Wax, and they both turned out so beautiful. I love both of these pots, and you got kind of two projects in one here. Like I said, I have some of these pumpkin molds left if you need some, or any of the decoupage paper, fusion paint. Most of the things that I use in my projects you can get on my website, susieonthefarm.com. I hope that y'all have enjoyed today's moody fall Halloween-ish projects. Let me know which one was your favorite below in the comments. I'll be back Friday with another video, and I hope to see you guys then. Have a great night.